Okay, Trina, this is the talk. Get in the zone, the in zone. Just a little tap of the helmet to Super Bowl Sunday. Go Chiefs. Oh, was that my inside voice? For the purpose of our conversation today, the zone and the word flow will be used interchangeably. Have you ever wondered where that term, being in the zone, came from? Well, believe it or not, there was an award-winning television series called The Twilight Zone, which ran from 59 to 64. Some of you may know it. And it featured supernatural and science fictional plot elements. And it was basically the underpinnings of In the Zone, the Twilight Zone. And it suggested magical and mystical superhuman powers that they could acquire for a temporary time. So fast forward a few years, in 1974, there was a tennis player by the name of Arthur Ashe. And he likened his success and the experience he had as he was playing tennis as being in the zone. Now, the word flow was coined much earlier in the 60s, and it's been studied at great depth since then. There was a creative expert psychologist by the name of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Now, we're going to call him Dr. C going forward. He became so fascinated with the fact that so many artists would lose track of time. They would talk about losing track of time. They would forget to eat. They would miss appointments. They would be in the zone. Dr. C, however, called it the flow. The flow is a state of supreme focus, and it helps athletes and artists and everyday people to work at their peak potential. It's when your mind fully connects with achieving a goal, such as getting a hit, stealing a base, making a touchdown, creating amazing artwork. The attention is absorbed into the present moment so much, into the here and now, that everything else fades away. When you're in the zone, your mind only processes the thoughts and the images that help you execute your task successfully. Wow, does that seem like that might be useful in life? Think about that. Your mind actually shuts everything off except what it takes to execute your task successfully. It is a coveted and sought after frame of mind for athletes. Michael Jordan shared that if he works at it too hard, he misses the window of the zone. He misses the flow. It is a cognitive state where one is completely immersed in activity. When you're in the zone, the fear of failure, worry, doubt, indecision, all those mental traps, they're forbidden from entering into your focus because the brain is focusing strictly on what it takes to succeed at the task you've undertaken. As I said, many athletes see it as a very magical place. But Dr. C tends to believe that the flow, the zone, is simply a mental state of total involvement, and it's really about being in the present moment. Flow is the joy of doing something for the sake of doing it. It's a state which people are so involved that nothing seems to matter. And you know, it makes sense that we want to be in this flow, in the zone, because it gives us feelings of success and pride and accomplishment, dumps all kinds of endorphins in our bodies, and makes us feel really good. And even though the joy is not the forefront or the intention of completing the task, it is that sense of joy that is experienced by being immersed in what we're doing. Now, according to Dr. C, he says that the way to achieve the zone or the flow, and there have been many sports psychologists, there are a lot of opinions about this, but what he had to say really resonated with me as to the way to achieve being in the zone. They set their mind to something. They look forward to something that they desire or want. That's the first step of being in the zone, of experiencing the flow of life. And they come at it from a balanced perspective. Not too excited, not too not excited. Balanced. And they gather knowledge about what it is that they're trying to accomplish. That comes in the form of practice and work and being present. And learning to assess and accept the situation as it is. And to be in the now moment, to be in the right here, right now. Dr. C emphasizes that flow triggers only happen in the now. It's a balance between challenges and skills. The zone is where there's no agony over failure. The flow is when we've released all self-consciousness and distractions, and we've moved into a sense of timelessness. It's a great example of being in the zone. Let me take you back to a Super Bowl Sunday. It's 1972, and the Steelers are playing Oakland. Now, Oakland is down. And the Steelers quarterback, you might recognize this name, Terry Bradshaw, threw a pass to John Fuqua. And it was deflected backwards. And Franco Harris of Oakland snatched the ball off the ground before it had the chance to be downed. It bounced off of another player. Harris caught the ball inches before it hits the turf, and he runs 40 yards for the winning touchdown. Now that's being in the zone. This play has become one of the greatest NFL plays in history of the NFL. He received numerous awards, including Offensive Rookie of the Year and Super Bowl MVP. Now, how did that happen? More than 50 years after that event, people are still trying to figure out how that happened. So let's look at it. Do you think Harris was in the zone? He went to that game certainly with an intention of leaving with a Super Bowl ring. That certainly was on his mind as he set his mind on something. He had worked and learned. He knew how to catch. He knew how to run, and he knew how to score. He already had those skills. And so he assessed the situation as Terry Bradshaw is passing the ball. And he realized his team was down. He realized this is where they're at, but he wasn't there to give up. He was there for that Super Bowl ring. And he got into the moment. I'm guessing he was pretty present to the fact when that ball popped off the front of that guy's body and was headed to be downed, he had to definitely be in the now moment. It's a great example of being in the zone. It's really easy, isn't it, to know when you're in the zone? You feel the strength of it, and you start to look for the win because you're so consumed by what it is that you're focused on. And I'll tell you this, if he was over there, if Harris was over there mulling over the last loss, or the last time he fumbled a ball, or the last time he didn't make connection, he certainly would not have been available to make that play. And the more you do it, the more you realize it. And that is true for both the realizing this is the situation we're in, this is what I desire, I am moving toward that, I am in the zone. The more you do that, the more you do that. And the more you think about what didn't happen before and allow that to cloud what's happening in the now moment, the more you do that. Robert Pirsig's popular work, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, he says this: when you're not dominated by feelings of separateness from what you're working on, When you care about what you're doing, that is when your mind becomes a perfect reflection of the concrete situation you are in. That is when you enter the zone. The sense of fluidity between your body and your mind. You're totally absorbed. To do what you love, what lights you up, find that and start moving toward that. Keep signing up for things that give you that intrinsic sense that all your beta and theta waves are all lining up. Now, does that mean that it's going to make it easier? Or it's going to make everything easy? No. In fact, anytime that you reach a moment of peak enjoyment, when you're doing something that is difficult, that's a sure sign that you're in the zone, that you're in the flow of life. We don't notice distractions. We don't notice the things around us because we are so focused on what our desire is, on what it is that we came there to do, what we came here to do. Now, some say that spiritual flow is different. And they say it's different because spiritual flow deals with the holy or the sacred. Well, really? I'll tell you what, talk to any of those players on either one of those teams today, and they'll tell you the sacredness of that game, of that Super Bowl. Whatever each individual intention was, they are arriving with that intention, with that desire today, and that's to go home with a Super Bowl ring. And the underlying meanings and the underlying thoughts of that each individual holds, I want to make my family proud. I want to succeed at what I've started. Whatever those are the sacred thoughts. That's why spiritual flow and being in the spiritual zone is not any different than that of what we experience with athletes. You want to know how sacred that game is today? 112.2 million people will throw a Super Bowl party today. Do you realize that the total spending on food and drinks today alone is $86 per person in the United States for a whopping $17.3 billion? And you too can be with 72,000 of your closest friends in that $2 billion Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. Somebody thinks it's sacred. Somebody has given it value. A collective somebody. So the spiritual zone and the spiritual flow are no different than that of athletes, of performers, of artists. The spirituality zone where you are aligned with and you know the benefits of that. And what if I told you you're already there? Eric Butterworth says the whole universe is concentrated at the point where you are. You are the universe expressing as you. It stands behind you with its full resources. Boy, that'll make you feel brave. That'll put you in the zone, won't it? Lao Tzu said this: the human spirit has its source in the divine fountain, which must be permitted to flow freely through humans. The flow, the zone. You're already there. You're in the in zone. So let's live like that. Let's claim our purpose. Let's set our mind on something. Let's take the first step to being in the flow. Let's look at our lives and check it out for balance, work, play, laughter, joy, reflection, grieving. Let's work at knowing what it is that we want and knowing about what it is that we want. And dig deep into those spiritual and those places within us that really remind us of the divine truth of who we are. Let's get to know about that. And then assess and accept the situation that we are in. And be in the now moment. look for the when. You're already there. You're in the zone. The flow is what you are and where you are at. We've had some great examples of what it looks like for humans to live in the zone. I can think of one, Jesus. I can think of another, Muhammad and the water. And how about my Grandma Maine and her ability to turn a sad moment into something to be grateful for? You can only do that when you're in the now moment and you're in the flow. It's simply a mental state of total involvement. That's what it is. Eric Butterworth again says this: the free flow of ideas and creativity is our inheritance as divine children. I'm going to say that again. The free flow of ideas and creativity is our inheritance as divine beings. You can dip into the flow anytime. As fast as you can snap your fingers, the answer can come. If you allow yourself to remember that you're in the flow, that you're in the in zone, that internal spiritual search and place of depth and expression, as fast as you can snap your fingers, the answer can come. In fact, I encourage you the next time that you're trying to come up with a thought or an idea or create or a solution to something that just seems insurmountable. And we have them in life, don't we? Just a light snap to remind yourself that you're in the flow. You're in the zone. This is the zone. And Eric Butterworth says this also: there is a flow of harmony and love and light and life and substance everywhere. You are that flow, whether you're aware of it or not, and you may even be agitating it or frustrated by it. But you are that flow. Be here now, remember? You're always in the flow. And it's always in you. You may not know how or why you lose the consciousness of the flow or being in the zone, but one thing you can be sure of: if you are experiencing problems, if you have run up against a block, you are out of the consciousness of the flow. Because it is in the flow that you find solution and healing and comfort. And the flow is constant. Your prayer is not to generate the flow, but to acknowledge it and to get your thoughts synchronized with it. It's already there. Take a few minutes before you arise in the morning to get yourself synchronized in the consciousness with the flow of life. Try this. Eyes open. I am the flow of life, and I move easily with the flow of life. I am the flow of life, and I move easily with the flow of life. When you're consciously in the flow, you know that things and spirit experiences come to pass, that these are temporary conditions. We deny the permanence of those conditions when we are in the flow. And in the flow of life, all that is limiting or dark will wash away. Hold things lightly and be courageous, be brave. Get it in your head that you are in the flow. Feel it in your body. Know it in your soul. There's no need to rehearse problems or to feel sorry for yourself or to think that this is going to last forever, be it good or bad. Be in the flow, get in the zone, in the in zone. Happiness, as Eric Butterworth reminds us, is not in savoring things, but it's in knowing that you are in the flow of life. You're on the winning side. Being in the zone is our natural state. And as Steve and Trina reminded us, get out of the way. And now Trina and Steve will remind us about being brave and how we can step into and recognize the flow and be in the zone, setting our mind, staying balanced, working toward what we want, assessing and accepting, being in the now moment and looking for the win. Just to paraphrase Rumi, there is a place. I will meet you there. See ya in the zone. Namaste.